name is Barbara, and I'm from the Faroe Islands, and I'm a geologist, actually. And just to show you where I'm from, maybe some of you, I guess, know where the Faroe Islands is, but maybe not all of you. So it's right here in the middle between Iceland, Norway, and Scotland, and it's quite small. If you see, here's the map of the country. So you see here, it's 18 small islands, and it's about 90 kilometers wide altogether. And I live on this island up in the north, called Borøy, and this is actually the city I live in. So you are actually looking at my window right about here. So as you see, the island is surrounded with the Atlantic Ocean all the way around. And I work as a geologist, as I told you, and in the Faroese Geological Survey, and we are about 11 geologists working there, and some other people, of course. And since it's not that large organization, we actually get to do everything. Last week we went into a tunnel and collected rocks and looked at, and were logging all the way while they were drilling the tunnel. And sometimes we do research, and sometimes we teach, like I did this morning. So it's actually a very fun job. We do a lot of different things. But that's a plus when it's a small organization. I just have to go to the next one. Yeah. Okay, then we'll start the lesson actually. And one of the questions I was thinking about today was why they are finding marine animal fossils, both animals and plant fossils, on mountain tops. Why they found them both in the Himalayas and in the Alps and in the Andes and other tops across the world also. It's a bit weird if you think about it, that you find fish fossils on top of an animal on top of a mountain that's long away from the ocean. Can you hear me better now, maybe, if I go a little bit closer? It's okay now? Yeah. Just let me know if you can't hear me or anything. If you look at these pictures, this is ammonites that's found on top of Himalayas. These are marine animals that have died, and then the body has been preserved in the rock. It's been buried, and then it's been turned into a rock, actually. And then today we can find the remnants of this sea creature that was alive for many million years ago. And there are two types of fossil. You can either have a body fossil where you have like this, you have a body of an animal, or just below here, you have if you see here, you have a sea lily, and then next to it you have a fossil of a sea lily. So these are body fossils. But if you look at this top picture, we have this is a dinosaur track. So this is not a body fossil. This is a trace fossil. This is meaning when the dinosaur walked here, he pressed the ground, the foot down into the ground, and the whole of the foot is preserved. So that's what we call a trace fossil. If we think about trace fossils in the ocean bottom, you have small sea creatures living in the bottom, and maybe some of them will build holes to either hide in or maybe save some food in, and those holes, as we see them today, those would be the trace fossils. So it's a bit exciting why they find these on top of mountains, on very high mountains also. Okay, yeah. So the big question is, why are they here? If you look at this, this is the Himalayas right here, and as you see, they are quite a long way from the ocean that you see here. So it's not, it's a bit strange. So to answer this question, we need to look a little bit into the Earth, and we need to understand a few things before we can understand why they are found here. So if we start a little bit basic, if we look at the Earth here, and if we go all the way into the center, we first have the inner core, which is a solid core, and then around the solid core we have the outer core that you see here. the orange. That's a liquid outer core. And then if we go further up, we come to the mantle, which is actually about 2,900 kilometers thick. So it's quite an amount. And then on top you have the crust, which varies from 0 to 100 kilometers thick. It can vary a little bit depending on if you look at the crust here, you see this part of the crust is called oceanic crust, because as you see, it's under the ocean. And this part is called where's the mouse? There. This is the continental crust. So this is the land actually. If you think about continental crust, it's about up to 5 kilometers thick, but the continental crust can get up to 65 kilometers thick actually. So it's really thick. And then we have two more. Sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. If you have two more, how do you say? You split the mantle up. If you have the upper part of the mantle here, the lower upper part is called the asthenosphere. Oh, my mouse keeps going away. There it was. The asthenosphere. This is a more ductile part of the mantle. If you look at this picture here, you can see the green. This is the mantle, and then you see the asthenosphere is also a part of the moving mantle. You can explain it as it gets hot, it goes up, and then it moves around, and as it gets colder, it sinks a little bit again. So it's sort of an engine that's driving the crust. And if you go a little bit above the asthenosphere, we have the lithosphere, and that's the crust plus a little bit of the upper mantle. And the lithosphere is actually broken up into plates, sort of like a puzzle. I will show you in the next slide also. So the lithosphere is more rigid and solid, and it actually floats on top of the asthenosphere. So it moves around. I will show you in this one. Here, yeah. If you look at this one, the lithosphere, I told you, was broken up. If you see the red borders here, these are the borders between the plates. And if you see here, we have 7 very large plates here, the Pacific, North American, South American, African, Eurasian, Australian, and Antarctic. And you see, maybe you see it better in this picture, that it is like a puzzle, but the bricks are being destroyed and formed. That's a little bit of a change from a normal puzzle. But you see it very well here. And if you look at these plates again, we have different borders on the plates. Here you have a transform border, and here you have a convergent border, and here you have a divergent border. I will show you these also in the next slide. And this theory about plate tectonics was formulated in the 1960s. It was proposed long before that, but it was very hard to get people sort of in on it and believing in it. But in the 60s, it was formulated. And today, I think most geologists and people, they have accepted this theory, I think. But there's always some more than that. If we go further, yeah. Here you can see a little bit better about the boundaries I was talking about. If we look at the first, If you look at the first boundary, you see it here. We have the transform boundary. That's actually, if you have a fault that goes along here, then you suddenly have a small fault that goes across the large fault. And at this place, the plates, as you see here, they will move like this. They will move sort of like this. So they're just along, just like cars on a road, but they won't. But these are touching, so that's the difference. And if you look at the top picture up here, this poor man, he built a fence sometimes many years ago, but unfortunately he built it just across a transform fault. So since the transform fault moves a few centimeters every year, his fence will also move a few centimeters every year. So it will just get he'll just have to build more and more fence between this and over here. So that's how a transform fault, a transform boundary works. If we go to the next one, this is the divergence boundary. This is where two plates move away from each other, just like this. And we have it in the mid, yeah, here we have it. You see in the middle, and the magma is coming up through here and actually creating new crust in the middle of this. This is a mid-ocean ridge where new crust is made. And if you look here, in this in the start of the divergence boundary, when the plates start to move across, they make a rift valley. This is a picture from Iceland where you can see a rift. So this is the beginning of it. And then we have the last boundary. That's the convergent boundary. And convergent just means that the plates are moving, they will eventually crash. So they are moving together. Here you see, yep. Here you see two plates. You see an oceanic plate that goes below a continental plate. And this is a subduction zone, and this is a convergent boundary. And these form, among other things, they form mountain chains. So here you can see a picture from the Himalayas. Maybe you could tell me how many large plates I just mentioned, and maybe you can remember some of the names. Well, it's true that there are actually more than, I think there are 12, maybe more, but now I was thinking about the very large plates. There are a little bit less than 12 of the very large. Yeah, 7, that's right, very good. There are exactly 7 large plates that you see here. The African, the North American, South American, now I was a little bit early. That was very good that you could mention some of them. Sorry. I forgot I asked about the names also. But maybe there are some small ones also, as you mentioned. That's probably why you got 12. Because here is a small that's called the Nazca plate. And you have the Cocos plate right here. And over here you have the Arabian plate. And you will get more questions, so just don't worry. Here you have, and these are small plates. So these are not the large I was talking about. Here's the Antarctica plate, for example, which is a very large plate. So this is the puzzle I was talking about, and this is sort of the plate tectonics is the engine behind the cycle that I'm going to talk about in the oceans. So now we will get into the subject, the Wilson cycle. The man you see here is John Tuzo Wilson. He is a geophysicist and a geologist. I think he was born in 1908. He's from Canada, and he worked a lot with the plate tectonics theory and contributed to that work a lot, and that's why the cycle is named after him. So the cycle is split up into 6 stages. If you look at the illustrations over here, we first have the embryonic stage, which is the first one, stage A. I will explain these in detail, every one of them. So I'll just go through them fast right now. Then we have the juvenile, the stage B, and we have the mature, stage C, mature ocean basin, and then we have the declining ocean basin, stage D, and E is the terminal ocean basin, and the last stage is Suturing. So to go a little bit into details, the first stage, called the embryonic stage, this is where it all starts. It starts with a stable craton. A craton is a very, very old and stable continent that hasn't been deformed a lot, but maybe on the edges. But in the middle, it's very stable and has been so for millions of years. But but eventually there comes a hot spot below this stable continent. So there's a lot of magma pressing up under the crust, as you see in this illustration. And as the magma pushes up, and it's very warm, of course, it heats up this part of the crust. And as it heats up, it swells up. The area above the hotspot will swell up and uplift a little bit, as you see it right here. And when this part is being uplifted, this a little bit colder edge here is going to pull sort of out And that's why the crust is getting thinner and thinner, and rift valleys are formed, as you see in the lower illustration. I have two pictures here. These are both from a very good example, which is the East African Rift Valley. Can I move? Sorry, I'll just see if I can move this. No. Oh yeah, there it was. Here you can see the East African Rift Valley. And if you look at this illustration, you see it got almost like stairs down, going down to where the crust is really thin. And it's actually the same you see in this picture. Maybe it's not a good picture, but at least here you can see one of the terraces, one of the steps that I was talking about. So this is what happens in the first step. It's warming, lifting, and being pulled apart. So we go to the next step. This is called the Juvenile Ocean Basin, and this is stage B. As you see here, there's still the hot spot below, pressing it a little bit up, and it's being pulled out of the side. But now, as you see here, it's actually one plate has turned into two plates. And the edge of these both plates will cool down here, and as it cools, it will actually get a little bit heavier and sink below the sea. And that's why a shallow sea is formed here. If you look at this map there, this is a map of the Red Sea, where you see one plate is going, here you can see the movement. The African plate is being pulled that way, and the Arabian plate is being pulled this way. So in the middle here you have actually a live example of a shallow juvenile ocean basin, which is the Red Sea, of course. And here you see a map of the same Red Sea. So you see it's getting deeper in the middle, so this is still growing, and it will eventually go further to the next step. If nothing else happens, of course, you never know. And the third step is the mature ocean basin. This is stage C. So this is actually the same is still happening. Both of the continents are being pulled apart, and the hotspot is in the middle. But now there is a mid-ocean ridge, which is forming in the middle. And here is actually new oceanic crust being formed. If you look at this illustration, and now the sea is being actually much larger than before. And this is the mature ocean basin. I think I have a question afterwards. Yeah, before I tell you which one it is. Can you maybe name one mature ocean basin that has two continental margins on each side and a mid-ocean ridge in the middle? Maybe you can guess one ocean that has this. Yes, very good. Exactly. This is the Atlantic Ocean that I was talking about. This is a mature ocean basin. So here you see this is a map without water, just so you see it better. Here you see the mid-Atlantic ridge going all the way up through here. You see Iceland is here, Faroe Islands, we are right there. And you see the continents on both sides I was talking about. And actually, if you look at South America and you look at Africa, you can actually see the puzzle I was talking about. Because the South American plate fits very, very good into the African. You can see the corner here. It would actually fit in here if you were building a puzzle. So this is a very good example of how the plates are moving. And of course, in the middle, as I was talking about, it's not like a normal puzzle, because here you are creating new crust in the middle. So it's not just a hole in the middle; it's something new happening. So if we go to the fourth stage, this is a declining ocean basin. This is stage D, and now actually the tables have turned a little bit. Now it's not being pulled apart. Now it's being pushed together, and that's the convergent plate boundary. If you look at the illustrations here, you see a subduction zone, meaning that the oceanic plate here is being pulled. There's missing an arrow, but it's being pulled down under the continents that you see on this side. And as this plate is being pulled under, a lot of material is scraped off it here. And you also have to think about that this plate is full of water. Yeah, that's true, it was the Atlantic Ocean. And this is full of, but this is not the Atlantic Ocean, this is actually the Pacific. This is because now we got to the next stage. And if you look at this illustration a little bit better, this plate is full of water, so this water will cause the metal to, how do you say, to melt a little bit earlier. So that's why you get volcanic activity at the subduction zone. This ocean basin is the Pacific Ocean, and this is a shrinking. It's getting smaller and smaller every year because these plates. The next picture will show it even better, actually. Well, here, yeah, this is actually what's happening. If you go back to this one and you think about this side, the America here, and then you think about this side, Australia and Asia, and then you look at this illustration. Here you see the Nazca plate. That was one of the smaller plates we mentioned. It's being pushed under the South American plate. So you can see this is the oceanic plate, very heavy, and it's being pushed under the continental plate, which is a lighter plate. And here's actually a very good illustration what you will get in a subduction zone. You will get very deep earthquakes, like you see here. I think this is all the way down to 600 kilometers deep, and you will get earthquakes all the way up, of course, and you get faults and everything. And here you see the water rising, which is triggering the mantle melting, like I talked about, and this is triggering these volcanoes that you see here along the border. And if you go a little bit longer up, you see the material that's being scraped off this oceanic plate is actually being pushed onto the continental plate. So there's a lot of faulting and folding going on there. And here, where the plate is being subdued, there is an ocean trench. Maybe you heard about, I think the deepest oceanic trench is the Mariana Trench, which is 11 kilometers deep. I think that's the one where James Cameron but in a submarine went all the way down. You can go on YouTube and see that video, I think, where it's going down to one of these trenches. And this, if you look on the other side I mentioned, here, on this side where it's Asian, where it's Asia is here, okay, then you see actually an oceanic plate crashing with another oceanic plate. And still one of them has to go down, so the heavier one will go below the other one. But here it's not a continent. So instead it will create, the magma coming up here, volcanic activity will create an island arc. Like you see here, for example, the Caribbean or Hawaii, that's an island arc. You get an island and then moves another one, and yeah, that's an island arc. And you also get an oceanic trench here, where they go below each other. And exactly in this place, we are still in the same stage. If you look at here, they call this the Ring of Fire. This is the Pacific Ocean. This is the American plate, and over here you have Asia and Australia. The Ring of Fire just means there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of earthquake activity. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there is volcanic activity at some places also. But you can see the border of the plate actually with this activity. So it's very well illustrated. If we go to the next one, yeah, I think we are at the 5th stage now. This is the terminal ocean basin. Yeah, Pacific Ocean is a declining ocean basin. That's true. Like this. Declining ocean basin, and here you have the Pacific. Then we'll go to the next one, and that's the terminal ocean basin. Here, the plates are, of course, still moving to each other. If you look at the illustration, you see that the continents on this side and on this side is getting closer and closer. So there's less room for the ocean basin. So it's very small at this point. It's irregular, and it would be narrow. And an example of it is the Mediterranean Sea that you see here. And that's, you can say, a dying ocean basin. It will eventually die out or dry out first. And at this point, there's a lot of activity, metamorphism, where rocks are changed because of the heat and pressure. There's a lot of folding and a lot of faulting also. And actually, if you look at this, you see the Gibraltar is this in the bottom here. I think for about 5 million years ago, this strait, I think you call it, was actually closed off, and all the water that you see here evaporated, and the Mediterranean was actually dried out. The only thing left was salt. It was evaporated, so just the salt was left. But I think it was maybe 170,000 years, maybe. And then the Gibraltar opened again, and the Atlantic, this is the Atlantic Ocean you see here, it flooded back into the Mediterranean Sea. So that's how a terminal ocean basin works. So eventually it will get cut off again, and yeah, eventually they will crash the continents that you see here in many million years. Then we'll go to this is actually the last stage of the Wilson cycle. This is called Suturing. And as you see in the illustration here, there's no ocean in between. There's no oceanic plate. There's just two continents crashing. The oceanic plate is still here, but now there's only two continents crashing together. And as they crash together, they are being uplifted and being pulled together. So this is still a convergent plate boundary. And this is how mountains are built, mountain chains, for example. If you look at this is a picture from the Himalayas on this on the left side, and this is a picture from the Alps. So these are both examples of suturing, where the plates have gone together and they have crashed, and then they start to sort of being pushed upwards. So this is a very good example. So the question is, I hope we have answered the question why you would find sea animals, marine animals on top. If you look at this illustration, if you go a little bit back, you see here, you see the oceanic plate. It's the gray plate, the lighter gray plate you see here. And you see, you remember they're being pushed together. And then if you look at the last one, oops, here, you can see actually that we have oceanic plate on top of the continent. So that's actually the reason why you find fish on top. It's not because they have been put there for some weird reason, but it's because they have come from this side and crashed and then upwards. So I hope you got an answer to that question. I have 2 YouTube videos to show you. So this is the first stage, remember? Yeah. This is this is the rifting valley, like the African, and then it's opening a little bit up, the Red Sea maybe, before the ocean ridge came here. And now it's widening into being a mature ocean basin, the third one. And eventually it will stop. Yes. And it's being pushed together again. And here you see a subduction zone in the Pacific. In the Pacific, there's also a subduction zone on this side. And then you can see they're being pulled together. And the oceanic plates here with the it's being pushed up here all the time. Parts of this oceanic plate. That's why the animals go up. And eventually they will crash. And you see, yes. So now you see why oceanic crust eventually can come up here. That was the first one. And I have another one, just to show you how the Himalayas, just really short also, here. So you see the continents moving around. Gondwana, it's going up. And you see the ocean is between where all the animals live. And you see that they will eventually crash here. There. And the Himalayas were created. So thank you very much for listening.